This is macOS Ken.
blankOS 26.2 is out. Switzerland investigates NFC on iPhone rules. And Pluribus is the biggest show yet for Apple TV. It is Monday, the 15th of December, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Clean My Mac. Try 7 days free and use my code macOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/macOSken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSken. So I guess I was wrong about Apple not shipping on a Friday, huh? It is with a certain amount of egg on my face that I let you know that, yeah, that happened. All of the blankOS 26.2 updates were released at the end of the week last week. Running through the updates and what is new in them. Features in iOS 26.2 cited by Mac Rumors include the option to set alarms for reminders, the ability to make the time more or less opaque on the lock screen, live translation for AirPods in the EU, and support for third-party app stores and voice assistants besides Siri in Japan. Other interesting features in Apple's release notes include making the favorite songs playlist more prominent in Apple Music, enhanced safety alerts for users in the US, AirDrop verification codes, and breaking out popular Apple News sections at the top of the Today feed. I'm not certain, but that appears to be based on individual uses. The 3 sections broken out at the top for me are 3 that I click through and to on a regular basis, none of which have anything to do with sports. Apple's also being a bit more insistent about automatic software updates. Apple and various security-minded folk have long recommended that users set every device that can update automatically to update automatically. That way they'll know they're running the latest protections. Now, another piece from Mac Rumors says iOS 26.2 is including a notification for some. It lets people know that future updates will be automatically downloaded and installed. Don't freak out, though. There is a toggle to change that installation option. Users who choose to turn that off are then taken to a page with a toggle to turn off automatic downloads as well. I know the security people with whom I used to do the checklist would say to leave both of those things on. That said, they would also acknowledge that there are legitimate reasons to toggle them off for some, like on devices with special apps or software applied by one's work, or units being monitored or controlled by mobile device management software. Generally speaking, though, you're going to want to leave that automatic update thing on so you don't have to worry about bugs and security issues like the ones tackled by the Friday updates. Everything Apple shipped brought random fixes and security updates, 2 of which are thought to have been under active exploit. A stroll over to Apple's security updates page has Apple listing 2 WebKit vulnerabilities with the line, Apple is aware of a report that this issue may have been exploited in an extremely sophisticated attack against specific, targeted individuals on versions of iOS before iOS 26. That is the word for iOS and iPadOS 26.2, iOS and iPadOS 18.7.3, and macOS Tahoe, watchOS, tvOS, visionOS, and Safari 26.2. Apple also released macOS Sequoia 15.7.3 and macOS Sonoma 14.8.3 on Friday. The aforementioned WebKit fixes were not part of those. Despite a lack of known active exploits, though, both do address a number of security issues. If you've got a Mac hanging back in Sequoia or Sonoma, probably want to go ahead and run those updates. Coming in hot on Apple's Fondle Slab Friday was iPadOS 26.2. Fixes specific to it, highlighted by Mac rumors, include continued improvements to multitasking, and we're done. The rest were the types of general updates found in other OS updates, including some for Apple Music, features for Apple Podcasts, changes in games, and the aforementioned security fixes. To the Mac we go, where we find Apple releasing macOS Tahoe 26.2. Again, not a lot that's specific for the Mac, though the company's answer to physical ring lights has made the scene. Describing the Mac's Edge Light feature, Apple's release notes say it uses the Mac display to illuminate your face like a virtual ring light when you're on a video call in low light. User-controlled light width and temperature give users control over how they're lit. It can be set to turn on automatically in low light settings on Macs introduced in 2024 or later, and it's smart enough to get out of the way of a user's mouse should it be blocking something a user needs to mouse around. Otherwise, the release was fairly general, brought a lot of the same features that made their way to iPhone and iPad, and of course, lots of security fixes. Sliding down to the wrist, Apple's notes for watchOS 26.2 say it brings sleep score updates. Specifically, that's refinements to sleep score classifications and notification controls. It also addressed an issue where the music app fails to advance to the next song, brings the enhanced safety alerts everything else got, and more security fixes than you can shake a stick at. Okay, I didn't count them, but why would you want to shake a stick at them anyway? Wherever you keep your Apple TV, that's where you'll find tvOS 26.2 awaitin'. For this one, Mac Rumors writes up a small number of changes that stand to be significant for users. According to their report, the update changes the way that profiles work on Apple TV, adding an option to create a profile without an Apple account. That could be groovy for house guests, house sitters, and kids. For profiles made for children, the piece says there is an age-restricted mode that limits the content that kids can access in the TV app. The Apple TV app will only show content that's appropriate for the limits that have been established for the account. Also, security fixes. Being an offshoot of tvOS, the arrival of HomePod software 26.2 comes as no surprise. Mac Rumors has Apple indicating performance and stability improvements, and that's it. Kind of feels like a ripoff until I remember that the only thing that would ever change on my old analog speakers was the way they would get staticky and eventually stop working. #gratitude. Finally, and boy do I mean that, Apple on Friday released visionOS 26.2. I'll tell you, I am still confused by this device, mostly because I don't have one. When Apple released it, or soon after, the company highlighted the ability to activate travel mode on an airplane. I would have assumed that that would work anywhere and that they just highlighted air travel because sitting on a plane for hours sucks and this might make it suck less. However, Apple's release notes say with the latest update, travel mode lets passengers use Apple Vision Pro on cars and buses in addition to airplanes and trains. I mean, it's kind of neat that planes, trains, and automobiles are now included, but what happened when you tried to use it on a bus before? If you know, please tell me. info@macosken.com. The latest update also brings support for hand-drawn content with spatial accessories like Logitech Muse in Notes, Freeform, and any pencil-enabled application. Past that, there's a change for the Freeform app that also hit every other device that supports Freeform. Do Freeform! All of Friday's updates are free. They're all available now in the usual ways. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Clean My Mac, your solution for care and control of your Mac. It's the holiday season, a time for presents, decorations, and cookies of all sorts. sugar cookies, chocolate chip cookies, digital cookies. Yeah, we could do without that last kind. And Clean My Mac can help. Cookies contain lots of information about us, information that businesses and bad guys might try to help themselves too. Cookies also build up over time, taking up space on our Macs and slowing down their performance. Clearing cookies can strengthen our security and increase performance. Clean My Mac features like Smart Care, Cleanup, and Performance get rid of those cookies and keep our machines in tip-top shape. And clear space, and guard against malware. And you can try Clean My Mac for free. Get tidy today. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. Make MacOSKen all caps in both the offer code and the URL. That way they know where you heard about it and you get that discount. Clean My Mac's been doing its thing since 2008. Put their work to work for you. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. Again, MacOSKen is all caps in the code and the URL. Use code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. A European nation is investigating Apple over possible anti-competitive behavior. Seeking Alpha says the Secretariat of the Swiss Competition Commission, which, by the way, is not a horse. The Secretariat of the Swiss Competition Commission has started a preliminary investigation into whether NFC on iPhone is open enough for effective contactless payment competition. Switzerland is not a member of the European Union, though Apple and the aforementioned Secretariat did a deal in early 2024 to give third-party app developers access to NFC on iPhone starting in late 2024. Still, it's not a thing that just anybody can access. There is a process, and in that process lies the rub. According to the regulator, the Secretariat is now conducting a preliminary investigation to determine whether the terms and conditions for granting access, which differ from those applicable to the European Economic Area, comply with Swiss antitrust law. Among other things, the regulator says the investigation seeks to clarify whether other providers of mobile payment apps can effectively compete with Apple Pay for contactless payments with iOS devices in shops. The authority says the Secretariat continues to gather information and insights from the markets. No word in the statement on how long that's expected to take. Apple's grown its footprint in Cupertino. Apple Insider says the company has picked up 2 office buildings in its hometown for $216 million. No word on what they'll be used for exactly. The piece has Christina Rasp, Apple's VP of Global Real Estate and Facilities, saying that the company is proud to continue investing in world-class facilities designed to foster innovation and collaboration. Congrats to the gang behind Apple TV's Down Cemetery Road. The streaming service issued a press release late last week announcing a second season for that series. Apple made the announcement on the heels of the first season finale. That means the whole first season is available to stream now. No word on when the second season will hit the screen. And finally today, Pluribus is tearing it up on Apple TV. 9 to 5 Mac says the Cupertino streamer hit the hell site on Friday, letting the world know that the Vince Gilligan sci-fi drama is now the most watched show in Apple TV's history. It's the usual case of fun with numbers without numbers. Apple doesn't say how many viewers make up the most. Still, it does beat some pretty stiff competition, including Severance, Slow Horses, and Ted Lasso. I know I've said this before, but if you have an Apple TV subscription and you're not watching Pluribus, I don't know what you're doing. The show did something a couple of weeks ago that I was sure it would not do because it was just so obvious. Then it did the obvious thing, and yet it still managed to subvert expectations. And not in that stupid, bet you didn't see that coming way. It was more like, I can't believe I'm actually having to consider that idea way. The only thing that bums me out about it, there are only 2 episodes left this season. While the second season is said by 9 to 5 Mac to be in development, with the way TV's made these days, there is no telling how long it'll be before that premieres. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Clean My Mac. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macOSKen.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.